Thanks so much. Thank you. I have more red hair than in that picture that you just saw up there. Good morning. Thank you for inviting me to beautiful, sunny London. How surprising. So I'm going to provide you today with a glimpse into the future of cybersecurity and privacy as hackers see it. Perhaps you'll find some of my ideas controversial, provocative, but I'm giving you an opportunity to consider them. And if you like, I think that what hackers have to suggest could make a difference, a world of difference, for the future of what you have to suggest to your customers, partners, patients, and everybody that cares about cybersecurity and privacy. So we're going to talk about hacking the future. And I understand it might be a little bit counterintuitive to trust a hacker, but I ask you to give me your trust for this short time this morning so that I can walk you through my world, the hacker's world, and suggest to you this perspective. If you choose to have other perspectives afterwards, that's absolutely fine, and I understand. But it's my job to give you an idea of the hacker's world. So let's jump right in there. To talk about the future, I'll begin with the past. About 20 years ago, about the same time that I first got interested in digital security and the online world, this gentleman, Nicholas Negroponte from the MIT Media Lab in the United States, provided his vision for a digital future in a book which he called Being Digital. And he had a lot of different predictions in there, but I'll focus on just one prediction. Mr. Negroponte said that he predicts that pretty soon bits and bytes of information will control more aspects of human society and human lives than physical atoms and molecules. Sounds a little bit like science fiction, definitely 20 years ago. But that reality is very soon coming true, because as you all know, with connected devices, Internet of Everything, and the phones you have in your pockets, bits and bytes already matter to a lot of the aspects of our life. And digital technology has already transformed so many aspects of our life. And it has enabled fantastic things, revolutions, technologies, and changes to how we spend our time online and offline. And I'm referring to some things also enabled by this new digital world. Fantastic things, perhaps, for some people, like specialized dating services. Now, of course, all of you in this room have never heard about Ashley Medicine, and you've never used it, but your patients, your clients, your customers have. So I'm going to go out on a limb and guess you heard about Ashley Medicine in the past year and its impact on the world. But for those few of you that were living on Mars and had nothing to do with this website, we'll give you a brief introduction. It's a specialized dating service that allows married people to meet with other married people to conduct things that married people can't do by themselves at home with their other married partners. And this was the most elegant way and family-friendly way I could use to describe it. Of course, this company is not shy about what they do, and so their sales slogan is very simple. Life is short, have an affair. Compelling. But the promise that this website brings to the table is not just of illicit romantic encounters. It's the promise of discretion, anonymity, secrecy. Discretion guaranteed. It's even in the image, right? This was their big promise. And as we all knew, this promise was broken very dramatically last year when a team of hackers decided to leak the entire contents of the databases of this company to the World Wide Web. For those of you who haven't heard about it, about the details of millions of users were exposed, including addresses and credit card details and names. And a few things were discovered from this breach. Number one, about 99% of the users, the registered users on the website, were men. And the remaining 1% were either chatbots, fake profiles, or female profiles created by the owners of the website to try and give the impression that women are actually using this website. So perhaps that's some good news. Of course, there was some other bad news for the people whose details were practically exposed. Now, you've all heard about this story, but I want to ask you one quick question. Have you considered why? Why did the hackers, calling themselves the Impact Team, even decide to take down this website in such a dramatic manner? All kinds of manifestos have come out from this team, the impact team, that's what they call themselves. And they said different things, and I don't think it's about protecting the sanctity of marriage. And no, they don't work for the Pope. I don't think so. But here's one interesting thing that I discovered when I looked into the reasons, the motivations. Why were these hackers so keen on exposing this website's very poor privacy and security protections? Here's why. It's because of this. Ashley Madison had a feature in their service called Ghost Erase. And this feature was a promise to their customers that if they ever want to leave the website, if they ever want to stop doing whatever it is they were doing and want to erase all trace of ever using this website, no problem at all, just pay us $20. And I think the hackers took issue with this. Because if Ashley Madison asks for people to pay to be removed from the platform, who is extorting who here is a very interesting question. And so I think this detail about the Ashley Madison story that is never discussed openly, I think it's worthwhile asking, was it okay that this company asked for $20 from people to be removed from a product? Isn't it a little bit of a problem when you can register online for free, discretion guaranteed, come join the fantastic adulterating lifestyle? Oh, you want to leave? No problem, $20 please. A little bit of a difficulty there, I think, and that's what the hackers saw as well. That's my perspective, at least. Of course, you heard that information is a commodity. It's the fuel running our future. If information is a commodity, then, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to offer you that the hacker's perspective is that privacy is a privilege. It is not necessarily a God-given right. It is a privilege for which people must pay with either their time, their effort in trying to set up encryption or avoiding services like Google, Facebook, etc., that use your information and give you a valuable service in return. Or you pay by using paid encryption and in premium websites and services, or you pay with your time and effort by staying off the grid. Either way, if you would like to have privacy in the future, hackers know that this is a privilege that you have to work hard for. And hackers have always known this. This has always been my perspective. To me, it's not new. To hackers, it's not new at all. Companies like Sony Pictures Entertainment who were hacked in the past year have also discovered the power of letting the entire world see their information and what difference that can make. Of course, you've all heard about the Sony Pictures Entertainment hack. Why were they hacked? Because the North Koreans dislike their taste in dramatic Hollywood narratives? As you can imagine, I'm also not that keen on that explanation. I think there was a much more nuanced, much more complex story in the background. But here's why it matters to you. In the Sony Pictures Entertainment hack, which, by the way, created a lot of media buzz for a pretty mediocre movie, I think you would all agree, that we all heard about this movie without watching it because of the hack, which makes me think that the North Koreans didn't really hack Sony to prevent you from going to the movie. But something else happened. The emails and the entire correspondence of Sony Pictures Entertainment, one of the leading Hollywood studios in the world, were all leaked online. This sounds like terrible news for people in your profession. But for people like Charlize Theron in the acting profession, it was actually some piece of good news in disguise. Because Charlize Theron, fantastic actress, she discovered in these emails that were leaked that as a female leading actress in her next upcoming Hollywood picture, she wasn't getting the same pay as the male counterpart actor, who was actually less well-known, less famous than she. So she actually used this information to leverage equal pay for Hollywood actresses everywhere. Fantastic news if you're a Hollywood actress. What's the takeaway? What's the takeaway for you and me? I think the takeaway from just these two stories, the dating industry, Ashley Madison, and Sony Pictures Entertainment. Data breaches are impacting all kinds of industries. Your customers might be in the car business, they might be in the medical device business, they might be in the dating business, they might be in the coffee shop business. Data breaches will have something to do with how they conduct their business in the next few years. That's a guarantee. Maybe if you're a prime minister or a leading politician, data breaches are going to impact your future and your career. Perhaps you've all heard about the Panama leaks by this point. Massive data breach from about 2 weeks ago. Prime ministers losing their jobs, politicians facing protests, because the power of information is changing the course of humanity. Sounds like a really dramatic statement, but it's true. It's absolutely true. These data breaches are making a difference for everyone. Hackers know what the power of information is. We know how much we have to work hard if we want to have privacy and security. And we know that privacy and security are not ultimate destinations. You don't just get to some place and that's it, now you're secure, or your information is private. It's an ongoing journey. It's a struggle sometimes, it's an effort. And this is, I think, why a lot of people fear hackers. Hackers, good and bad, they remind everyone, they remind you, and they remind everyone out there just how fragile this illusion of privacy and security that we all rely on every day to conduct our business. So it makes us fear hackers, but we shouldn't throw away the baby with the bathwater. Hackers have some really good ideas. One of them is that privacy, access, and trust are constantly shifting currencies of power, just like information is a commodity. And hackers realize that security and privacy is something you have to work for. It's not a God-given right. If you don't configure your servers, if you don't deploy encryption, if you don't take the time and effort to introduce security and privacy into everything that you do, you won't have it. This is something hackers know very well. And I learned this lesson from another Hollywood actress, surprising as it might seem. Perhaps you know her, Angelina Jolie. About 20 years ago, when I was first getting interested in the hackers world, I saw a film from 1995, Hackers. Has anyone seen this movie here? I think it's a classic for those of you who haven't. Please watch it. Fantastic examples of how hackers can completely ruin an FBI director's life, but also do a lot of fantastic things. When I saw this film, and I was about 14 at the time, 20 years ago, I realized that all of the stuff that I was doing, taking apart my computer and overclocking the CPU to make it go faster, that's kind of like a geek's version of souping up your car in the garage, or trying to find all kinds of web servers on the internet, which was a new thing for me in '95, finding these web servers and getting past security controls, getting into hidden folders, trying to set up my own website using HTML and pirated videos of The Prodigy. Yes, I did do that. Well, it's called being a hacker. It's a thing that people do. It's a whole community of hackers, and Angelina Jolie is doing it. Why shouldn't I? I realized this was my calling in life, and I'm very happy to say thank you, Ms. Jolie. You saved me, because if I'm being completely honest, in the interest of transparency, this is pretty much how I looked like about 20 years ago, a little bit more than 20 years ago. Now, some of you sitting in the front rows have now fun trying to identify me in this picture. Any guesses, by the way? I'll give you a spoiler. Any guesses over here, perhaps? I'll give you a spoiler. I didn't have the same hairstyle. So a lot of people are constantly looking at, there were a lot of ladies with, girls with fringes and bags. It's not me, that's not me, that's not me, that's not me. So I did go to school that day. It's not a trick question. But here's the honest to God truth. That's me. And I was so much of a dork, or nerd, I guess. I looked like a little boy. I would go nowhere without my state-of-the-art 1993 Sony Walkman gadget. Computers were my best friends. Gadgets were my best friends. Some of them still are. So I really needed that signal from Angelina Jolie to give me a meaning and a calling for what I wanted to do with my life, which was called being a hacker. I just didn't realize it before I saw that film. Since then, thankfully, thank you, Ms. Jolie, I've had a lovely career working with some big companies you may have heard of and some big Israeli government agencies and technology companies. But all through my career working with these organizations for more than a decade now, I've always tried to bring the hacker's perspective. And I know the hacker's perspective is still, when I talk about hackers, this is what you think about, this is what you see. Remember, I'm giving you a choice today to change your mind. I think hackers are part of the immune system for the technology age. We need hackers. They're a crucial part, they're a vital part of everybody's future. That's my perspective. Feel free to disregard it, but hackers will make a difference for your future, good and bad. So it's best not to ignore them. It's best not to ignore us, rather. So that's the choice this morning, ladies and gentlemen. Take it at your own risk, but I'm happy to give you more ideas, more good reasons why you should care about what hackers have to bring to the table. And this is one really good reason, I think. Cybersecurity and privacy and the future of our digital life does not depend solely on secrets. Secrets are not the only thing hackers care about. In fact, they are one thing most hackers do not necessarily care about anymore. Cybersecurity and the future of privacy, in my personal opinion, is going to be about protecting our digital, connected way of life. Sometimes it could be very, very intimate. For example, if you happen to be a diabetic patient and your life depends on an embedded insulin pump that constantly monitors your blood sugar levels and your insulin and administers the correct amount of insulin as needed all the time. I hope you're not diabetic patients, but if you are, you know that these devices have been vastly improving the lives of diabetic patients all around the world. This is a great piece of technology. Unfortunately, just like any other new digital technology, it can be hacked by malicious hackers. Thankfully, good hackers, like Barnaby Jack, one of my personal heroes, are out there to demonstrate the threats so that we can spark a solution. This is something Barnaby Jack said 4 years ago when he demonstrated using a radio antenna to remotely send a signal to such an insulin pump, a signal that directs the pump to completely dump any remaining insulin into a patient's bloodstream. He never hurt a soul. He conducted this demonstration on a see-through mannequin, as you can see. The reason this attack was even possible was because the medical device was not authenticating the identity of the transmitter sending those radio signals. Because the company that makes these medical devices never thought that they're also a cybersecurity company. And they never thought about employing a hacker's perspective. But they do so now. And in fact, in the United States, the FDA now has guidelines and suggestions for medical device companies to work with hackers and learn from hacking techniques so that they can prepare for the future. Another example, maybe something that more of you can relate to. These are some of my other hacker friends, Chris and Charlie. You might have heard about them in the news recently because they have a very specific hobby. Can you guess what their hobby is?
Jeep hacking.
Jeep hacking, thank you very much. Yes, I also heart crypto, if that's what's on your laptop. Yes, very much. So you are correct, sir. Charlie and Chris are into Jeep hacking. Not just Jeeps, they've been hacking all kinds of cars in the past 5 years. They've been trying to find the most hackable cars out there and put the information in the world so that people can make a conscious decision and so that automakers can make a difference to their product, because this is life and death stuff. It's not about secrets. They use their cellular signal to take this Jeep off the road. If you'd like to see a demonstration, the video is available. They conducted this demonstration to a reporter from Wired, the magazine Wired, and they used the signal remotely, so they were not in the car or nowhere near the car when they took it off the road. They also killed the engine, turned on the wipers, and blasted the music. But this was probably the most dramatic impact. However, nobody was hurt. In fact, this attack on the Jeep Cherokee 2015 model led to a massive recall of vehicles in the United States, a recall that allowed the company to fix the problem. Now, any guesses how the company fixed this problem? I should say there are prizes. So if you answer my questions, there are prizes. Okay? Or at least one prize. Yes. How did they fix the problem?
Maybe they cut the connection to the wireless connection.
They did not cut the wireless connection. This was, by the way, not a wireless connection, but rather a cellular signal. A lot of cars in the United States now have cellular technologies built in. GM has OnStar. Other car companies have other technologies. So it was not cutting the wireless or cellular connection. Other guesses? Yes, over there?
Posted out to USB stick.
Yes, that is absolutely correct. So thank you, sir. And you do win an award. Which you will get at the end. The solution the company had for their customers was to send people in the post a thumb drive with a software update for their car. This is going to be our connected future. Software updates for our vehicles, which we have to implicitly trust, where there is no way for the person who owns the vehicle to know what's in the software update, what they are agreeing to now. Perhaps this new software now tracks their location, identifies what's their favorite Starbucks branch, for example, or any other kind of personal preference. So that's the future, software updates for your cars. Of course, some people get to the office in something nicer than a Jeep Cherokee, perhaps an $80 million super yacht. So this is a super yacht, the White Rose of the Adriatic. As you can already guess what I'm getting at, this fantastic craft is also susceptible to attacks, remote attacks, specifically using a spoofed GPS signal. GPS, the global positioning system, the satellite navigation system, we all rely on. Military aircraft relies on, naval vessels rely on the same signal system, generally speaking. And the researchers from the University of Austin in Texas were able to simply send this boat a spoofed GPS signal that would take it a few degrees off course. Once again, because the boat does not verify the identity of where it is getting this signal from. It is sufficient that the signal is strong enough and stronger than the one received from the legitimate satellites to take the vehicle off course. This was already demonstrated 3 years ago, in case you think this is a science fiction or future forward technologies. Okay, what about webcams? Some of you have webcams, perhaps in your homes, your offices, your customers' premises. And you were told by the previous speaker that hackers and criminals will get into these webcams so that they can look at you. I have news for you. You are not interested to look at. I have looked through many webcams. I have read a lot of people's emails. They are most always boring. This is why criminals hack into webcams, because these webcams are always on. They have high bandwidth connections to the internet. They can be used to attack other people's computers, other people's servers, other people's devices. This is what an Israeli security company discovered in their own backyard, a botnet. That means an infected network of webcams that was being used to attack servers all over the world. Now, let's say you have nothing to hide, or your customers have nothing to hide. They're happy to have people look through the webcams all day long. Transparency is a value. That's great. What about preventing people from using their devices to attack other people's coffee machines, web servers, connected cars? This is going to be part of our connected future. I have another question for you. Anyone can tell me what this is? There are hints in the picture. What's that? It's the internet, you say? Thank you. You are almost accurate. This is an image of websites and web servers. So I think by this point you all understand that the web and the internet are two kind of different things. So the web is something that we browse and that we experience online, but the internet is much broader. It includes webcams, it includes connected coffee machines, it includes databases and organizational networks that are not visible on the web, the World Wide Web. This is an image from the web, you are correct about that, but it is from about 10 years ago. Fairly, not organized, but a fairly understandable ecosystem from about 10 years ago. If I tried to show you an image of the internet right now, the internet, including the World Wide Web, and including all of the connected devices that are potentially on it, it would look more like our galaxy, the Milky Way. And it would have disparate planets and dark spots where we don't know what's happening, and it will have its own constellations. This is probably more accurately a depiction of our connected future, and it includes much more than just the visible World Wide Web. So it would be easy and terrifying to get lost in this world. Thankfully, hackers to the rescue, once again. This is a fantastic search engine for internet-connected devices. It is called Shodan, like the black belt in karate. Shodan.io, if you're not yet familiar with this fantastic tool, I recommend signing up and trying it for free or getting an enterprise user account. It was started by one hacker originally from Austin, Texas. Now he works in San Diego. His name is John Matherly. He is known on Twitter as Achillean, and he calls himself an internet cartographer, which I think is fantastic. Shodan is a website, or a search engine rather, that lets you browse the connected internet for devices, webcams, wind turbines, connected coffee machines, if you find them. However, it can be used for a lot more than that. So quite recently, John discovered that these devices are not the only thing responding to his searches online. He also identified about 50 terabytes, or I'm sorry, perhaps it was even petabytes, a greater amount of data, residing on vast databases from some of the most popular database brands, such as MongoDB, which you might be familiar with or your customers are using. John was able to identify that these databases were absolutely exposed and speaking to the World Wide Web, responding to requests for information. And he downloaded vast amounts of information from these databases just to prove the point. He keeps talking about this. It's not just the data, stupid, but it's also about the data. And I suggest you take a look at his research findings online, because this is a tool you can all use in your network environments for your customers to show them just how exposed they might be. So who is on those front lines of this ecosystem? Who is with us in this galaxy? Good people and bad people, of course. But some of us think that there are good people saving us, fierce cyber warriors at the edges, fending off cyber attacks. Perhaps they work for your government, perhaps they work for my government. Either way, somebody's paying the taxes that pays their salaries. And these chaps or ladies are protecting us all. Well, again, I would like to suggest think again. Because even the world's biggest and most well-funded security agency, the National Security Agency in the United States, is doing a lot more to harm people's privacy than you might expect from a security agency. For example, in the past few years, they've spent millions of dollars on software vulnerabilities. That means bugs or exploits that can be used to conduct espionage. And they didn't necessarily tell the companies or the organizations involved about their findings. Rather, they used it for espionage. And I understand that it makes sense from their point of view. So how many of you heard about the Heartbleed SSL vulnerability last year? Some of you have. Even those of you who haven't heard about Heartbleed, which was a vulnerability in the Open SSL software library, I can guarantee you, personally guarantee you, that you have used SSL in the past 5 to 10 years. Everybody uses SSL. Americans use SSL, of course. But the NSA knew about the problems in SSL Heartbleed. They knew about this vulnerability at least 2 years before the rest of the world found out, which means they actively kept American companies at risk as well for about 2 years. So they might be making your job harder, even if they're doing their job according to what their mandate is. They're making all of our jobs harder. Security is not about these edges and fierce cyber warriors at the checkpoints. It's about all of us, and it's about the personal choices that people make when they install a new app, when they provide their details, when they click I agree, and I read and agree the terms of use, which you all know is the biggest lie on the internet, because other than you people here in the room, nobody reads the terms of use, and I would venture a bet that perhaps even some of you did not read all of the terms of use of all of the services you agreed to use online. So it's about the choices we make every day. We, our customers, our partners, we all make. Should we keep calm and carry on and brace for impact, brace for more data breaches, brace for no privacy at all? I would suggest to do what hackers are doing, which is understand that security and privacy take time, they take effort, they take strategy. They're not going to happen by the way. Most of all, they require us to share, collaborate, and innovate, because the bad guys surely are doing this. Collaborating and innovating and sharing their knowledge and their product without any burden at all. So we should do just the same. And this might be, again, counterintuitive for you all to encourage your customers to talk about the data breaches that happened in their organizations. But this is one of the best ways to make everybody safer. For example, how many of you had instances of ransomware in your organizations, companies, homes? Ransomware, it's a new, nasty, very good. Thank you for being brave and saying it. I don't think there's any reason to be embarrassed that you've been hit by ransomware. Ransomware is an extremely popular new type of malware that will encrypt your computer and require a ransom to release the decryption key so that you can get your files back. In other words, the criminals that run ransomware campaigns don't care about their information. They don't care about your details. They care that you care enough to pay them back for the ransom. They care that your customers will pay enough to pay the $1,000, $2,000, sometimes $17,000 ransom in some cases. But by sharing and saying, hey, we had this infection, we've had this breach, we've had this incident, and talking to other organizations, we can prevent the next one. So this is why I actually actively encourage companies and organizations to share details of what happened to them. And even Taylor Swift agrees, I hope. So perhaps you heard that Taylor Swift, popular American pop singer, in the past year or 2 years, she already had her own personal iCloud account hacked. Some of her text messages from Apple were released. Now, again, two fantastic things that I took away from this story. Number one, Taylor Swift knows that her brand is family friendly. And so in all of her text messages, you will not find anything incriminating or embarrassing. She's absolutely sweet and caring and kind to her friends in her text messages, as if it was curated for release to the public, as if these are the lyrics to her next song. I don't know if it is by chance or is she really this authentic, but it's fantastic because this is part of her brand. People trust her. Imagine Taylor Swift's files were released to the public and everybody discovers she's a horrible diva and a terrible individual. Would that make her sales go up? I'm not sure. But the second interesting thing I took away from this story is that a new Twitter account popped up on Twitter. It's called Swift on Security, and it uses the persona of Taylor Swift to talk about cybersecurity and privacy and provide advice. So if you have customers or perhaps daughters and nephews and nieces and people that like Taylor Swift, you can use the Taylor Swift persona to talk to them about cybersecurity. Because it is about all of us. It's not about fierce cyber warriors standing on the borders. There are no borders anyway. Perhaps there is only a gap, not a border. A gap between security professionals and hackers and how the rest of us see, or how the rest of you see the world. So I have a few more pieces of advice for you. This is a really useful website called haveibeenowned.com. You will notice the owned is spelled with P. It is a hacker slang, have I been pwned, but it means owned. Have I been breached? Have I been hacked? It is a very useful website started by a security researcher and a Microsoft professional by the name of Troy Hunt. He created this tool to aggregate usernames and passwords that were breached from a lot of different websites. So from the Adobe.com hack, from the Ashley Madison hack, from a lot of different websites and services. What this website is useful for, except for looking up your own details, is to identify one of the biggest problems, which I'm sure impacts your organizations, your businesses right now. It is the problem of recycling. And I'm not talking about recycling plastic bottles. It is the problem of recycling passwords. Everybody recycles passwords. It is perhaps the most popular form of recycling on the planet at the moment. And in fact, this is a problem for you because when some customer uses the same password for their Adobe.com account, their Ashley Madison account, and their enterprise account, that makes it a lot easier for criminals to get into your company and organization. And you can take a look at this website. You'll identify some of the most popular passwords. You'll identify some companies that you know, some enterprises that perhaps you work with. Take a look. It's a very useful tool. A few more points for you this morning. Cybersecurity is about the dating industry. It's about cars. It's about medical devices. It's about Hollywood studios. It's about every business globally. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, except for perhaps for the Amish preachers. I don't want to be offensive to anyone, but I heard they also have smartphones now. So perhaps it's also part of their future as well. That's why the internet needs you. Not to grow cool facial hair and join the cavalry, but rather to help protect your customers and your partners. And I would like to suggest one final point that could help you do so. And I'll take a point from this gentleman, and I don't normally agree with this gentleman because he is the former head of the NSA and the US Cyber Command Chief, General Keith Alexander, 4-star general. 4 years ago, I saw him present at DEF CON, which is the world's largest gathering of hackers on the planet. And for this conference, he took off his general uniform and put on the hacker's uniform, black t-shirt and jeans, to give a hiring pitch. In this room right here is the talent our nation needs. This is what General Alexander had to say to the hackers 4 years ago, 1 year before Snowden. Of course, hackers in the room said, well, then stop arresting us. We'd love to work for you. It took them a few more years, but just last month, the DOD, the Pentagon, the United States DOD, announced a program called Hack the Pentagon, where they are actively inviting hackers to collaborate with them and find problems in their code. And I think that is fantastic. It took them some years, it took some time to get over General Alexander's blatancy and the Snowden drama. But here's an idea for you, and for your nieces, nephews, daughters, grandkids, etc. Cisco says that the future is going to need 1 million more security professionals. Great news for you, job security. But it means that our industry, our community needs more good hackers. And I think they're going to come from my neck of the woods. I think they're going to come from the DEF CON hacker community and from the global movement of positive hackers. Because hackers have the talent and the technology that we all need. Some of them create technologies that we all use every day. Tesla is one fantastic example of a company I like to talk about. They are an innovative electric car company. They do everything differently. And so that same year, 2012, the same year that General Alexander came with great grandstanding and invited hackers to collaborate, Tesla brought their flagship model, the Model S, to Las Vegas. And they said to hackers, please come, play with our car. Test us. We would like to work with you. We are actively seeking your collaboration. So, really practicing what they preach, I think. And they're not the only ones. Companies around the world are now facilitating bug bounty programs. Bug bounty programs, these are ways for companies to work with hackers. Some of the biggest companies on the planet are doing this. Facebook, Yahoo, Microsoft, Samsung, eBay, Western Union, medical device companies, car companies, financial institutions. This is actually my specific topic of research at the moment at Tel Aviv University's new Interdisciplinary Cyber Research Center, looking at these bug bounty programs and understanding how companies can make the most value out of them. This is also creating a new class, if you will, or a new niche for security professionals to become professional bug hunters and professional bug bounty managers. So the lady on the left is Marion. She's a professional bug hunter from Vienna. And the lady on the right is Katie Masuris, who managed Microsoft's bug bounty program and then helped start HackerOne, which is one of the biggest bug bounty companies in the world right now. It's a new breed of hackers, if you will, that are out there to help you do your work, even if you don't know about them. This is an Israeli hacker. His name is Nir Goldschlager. Nir was fairly anonymous in Israel as a hacker, but after winning the Facebook hacking competition each year in a row for 3 years, not only did he make it to the top 10 lists at Facebook and was invited and offered a job there, he was actually offered a competing job for another company and moved to California. So bug bounties are also helping companies hire and attract talent from all over the world in completely new ways. Perhaps another point for positivism. Okay, I need to take a drink. Hold on. Right, all better now. So my point was another point of positivism and optimism for you this morning. More than 100 years ago, a U.S. Supreme Court Justice, Justice Brandeis, said something which I find very inspiring. He said that there is no better disinfectant than the light of day, and that transparency can be a cure to many social illnesses. Personally, as a hacker, I have to agree, although I see the inherent conflict between transparency and privacy. I hope that we can figure out ways to make both of these work in the future. But until we get there, we have to dance like nobody's watching, but encrypt like everybody is. That's the best piece of advice a hacker can give you anytime. And so with that, I'd like to say that, okay, I have one more point, sorry. I would like to say that thanks to hackers like Moxie Marlinspike and Nico Sell, you may have never heard about these hackers, but the hacker to the left, Moxie, is helping develop the encryption technologies that are now rolled out through WhatsApp. And Nico Sell founded a company called Wicker, which is an encrypted private messaging app. These technologies, like encrypting WhatsApp and private messaging apps, are making it easier for people to encrypt, which is good, because encryption is hard for some reason. So that future is here. I hope you are ready. Thank you very much.